And welcome to the May 20th, 2020 legislative session of the Penfield Town Board. I'll officially call this meeting to order. The town clerk and myself will rise and lead everyone in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Here.
LaFountain.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Ockenden.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I get into the agenda, let me read into the record for everyone. Due to the public health and safety concerns related to COVID-19, this meeting is being conducted remotely pursuant to the governor's executive orders, including Executive Order 202.1, which has suspended certain provisions of the Open Meetings Law. This meeting is being video recorded and is being broadcast live on Penfield TV's website, www.penfield.org, and on the Town of Penfield's Government Access Channel 1303. The meeting will also be later transcribed. If you would like to address the board on any matter this evening, there are two public participation opportunities, one at the beginning of the agenda and one at the end of the agenda. You may participate by phone, area code 585-340-8771, or by electronic submission at penfield.org, or on Twitter at Town of Penfield. So with that, we'll move into our agenda. And I'll ask, are there any communications and announcements? I'll start with our clerk. Are there any communications or announcements this evening?
I do not have any today.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Draw, any communications or announcements this evening?
No, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you. Councilman Ockenden, any communications this evening?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Moore, communications this evening? I'll take that as a no, Councilman Moore. Okay, very good. And Councilwoman.
Sorry, Tony, no announcements.
All right, thank you. And I'll call on Councilwoman Cole. Any communications this evening?
Not tonight.
Okay, thank you. I do have just two quick items that I would like to share with everyone because we have received some calls. So the town hall opened up under phase one. However, the doors are locked. It really is for building construction related only. You can make an appointment to come in. You can call into any of the departments or email any of the departments. However, the only ones that currently will be allowed at the town hall will be for building construction. Additions, new builds, pools, decks, sheds, things like that. And again, I would encourage to call ahead to make an appointment. Secondly, I'd like to announce the fact that the library opened up today with curbside service. So no one is allowed in the library. However, there is curbside service. So I will just hit a couple of highlights for the library. Library phones at 340-8720 will be staffed, and curbside pickup for services will resume at 10 o'clock today, May 20th. All programs as well as outside use of library meeting space have been postponed. The book drop will remain open, but you don't have to rush to return items currently in your possession. The Monroe County Library System has extended the due date for all materials to June 29th, and no overdue fines will accrue. So just wanted to give you an update on that. The last item that I would like to just mention is Memorial Day. This is going to be the first time that I can recall that we're not going to be together for Memorial Day. It is going to be a virtual Memorial Day. And with a lot of work by Sabrina Renner in our Recreation Department and our PCTV crew, we have put together our annual Memorial Day Ceremony of Remembrance. And you'll be able to view that on Spectrum Channel 1303. You'll also see it on Penfield.org, our web stream. And then if you have the devices from the App Store, such as Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, you'll be able to do that as well. Our guest speaker this year is Commander Rick Goff from the American Legion, Bremen Post 1229. We also were able to have our 3 award winners for their essays to be taped. That'll be part of the program. And the team has essentially put together this virtual celebration of this wonderful holiday. So I would encourage folks, you cannot be here. However, please tune in at 10:30, and I think you're going to find that the team did a great job. So thank you to Sabrina. Thank you to the team at Penfield TV. Moving on the agenda, I'll ask the board, are there any, this is our first public participation. And again, you can do that several ways. You can call in at 340-8771. You can log on at Penfield.org or on Twitter at Town of Penfield. And I'll wait for just a moment to see if we have anyone calling in or writing in. Again, there will be a second opportunity for public participation on any matter at the latter part of our agenda. Seeing no calls and no electronic submissions at this time, we will move on to additions and deletions. And I'll ask our board, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening?
No, sir.
Okay, seeing none, we do have the April 15th, 2020 minutes before us that were submitted to us by the clerk, and we've had a chance to review those. I would ask a motion of approval for those minutes.
I'll move them, Mr. Okay.
Who's the move?
The minutes of April 15th.
I'll second it.
So it's been moved by Councilwoman Cole, seconded by Councilwoman Draw. At this time, I'll ask the board, do you have any questions or comments about the minutes as they were presented? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Draw,
Aye.
Cole,
Aye.
The Fountain,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Great, thank you. I'll ask the board, the town attorney, and the town clerk, since our last get-together, has anyone received any petitions on any matter?
I have not.
No, sir.
Okay. Nothing from the clerk? And nothing from the supervisor's office? No petitions are in since our last meeting. We will continue on resolutions by function, and we'll start with law and finance, please.
Budget amendment in the general fund.
Move.
Second.
Whereas cancellations of recreation programs and events due to COVID-19 resulted in credit card processes, refunds, necessitating an increase in appropriations. Whereas the town board desires to have an up-to-date budget with current appropriation revenues. Be it resolved that the following 2020 budget amendment be approved. Under revenue, credit card revenue for $34,000, and under appropriation, credit card processing fees for $34,000.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I'll ask the board at this time, are there any questions or comments regarding this resolution? See none, I'll ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Draw,
Aye.
Cole,
Aye.
The Fountain,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization to settle Water's Edge Apartments 2 LLC, South Point Cove 2 LLC, Water's Edge Apartments 1 LLC, and South Point Cove LLC tax certiorari proceedings.
Move.
Second.
Whereas Water Edge Apartment, South Cove 2, Water Edge Apartment 1, and South Point Cove LLC heretofore commenced proceedings against the assessor and the Board of Assessment Review and other respondents for a review of the assessment for the years 2016 and through 2019. Whereas negotiations have been and had begun between the attorney for the town and the attorneys for the petitioners in an attempt to settle and compromise these claims. Whereas such negotiations, a tentative agreement has been reached between all parties on the terms of the proposed settlement, subject to the approval of the town board and to the approval of the Supreme Court of the State of New York, which terms of settlement are set forth in stipulations on file in the office of the town assessor. Therefore, be it resolved that the proposed settlement and proceedings brought by Water Edge Apartment 2, South Point Cove 2, Water Edge Apartment 1, and South Point Cove LLC for the years 2016 through 2019 be and hereby approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I'll ask the board further discussion on this resolution. Seeing no further discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign a license and hold harmless agreement to allow a portion of a deck within a storm sewer easement at 83 Devonshire Circle.
Move.
Second.
Be resolved that the town board of the town of Penfield hereby authorizes a supervisor to sign a license and hold harmless agreement with the owners of the property at 83 Devonshire Circle to permit a portion of the deck to encroach into a storm sewer easement to the town of Penfield located at this address in a form that is acceptable to the Penfield town attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Board, I'll ask any additional questions or comments on this resolution. Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Granting a conditional use permit to allow a hair salon at 1738 Penfield Road.
Move.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board for the issuance of a conditional use permit for the code to allow a hair salon at 1738 Penfield Road in the Four Corners zoning district. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Penfield held a town hall held a town meeting and public hearing at the Penfield Town Hall on May 6, 2020 at 7 p.m. on said date to consider the application and to hear all persons interested in the issuance of this permit. Now therefore be it resolved that the applicant's request for a conditional use permit to allow a hair salon in the Four Corners zoning district at 1738 Penfield Road is granted subject to the following conditions. For the record, Mr. Supervisor, there are 8 conditions that are consistent with our Four Corners zoning district. We discussed many of these conditions at the public hearing and at the work session last week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I'll ask the board any additional comments regarding this resolutions. Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. setting a public hearing to consider issuance of a conditional use permit to allow an aesthetic shop at 1738 Penfield Road.
Move.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board for the issuance of a conditional use permit pursuant to the code to allow an aesthetic shop at 1738 Penfield Road in the Four Corners zoning district. Be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Penfield shall hold a public hearing at the Penfield Town Hall on June 17, 2020 at 7 p.m. to hear all persons interested in this application and the issuance of the conditional use permit for the aesthetic shop at 1738 Penfield Road in the Four Corners zoning district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Moore. I'll ask the board any questions or further questions on this resolution. Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Draw,
Aye.
Cole,
Aye.
LaFountain,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Granting a conditional use permit to allow a hair salon at 2086 5 Mile Line Road.
Move.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board for the issuance of this conditional use permit pursuant to the code to allow a hair salon at 2085 5 Mile Line Road in the Four Corners zoning district. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Penfield held a public hearing at the Penfield Town Hall on May 6, 2020 at 7 p.m. On said date to consider the application and to hear anyone interested in the issuance of this conditional use permit. Now therefore be it resolved that the applicant's request for a conditional use permit to allow a hair salon in the Four Corners zoning district at 2086 5 Mile Line Road is granted subject to the following conditions. Again, for the record, Mr. Supervisor, there are 7 conditions. All 7 conditions are consistent for applications such as this in the Four Corners zoning district. And we did discuss many of these conditions, not only at the public hearing, but also at the work session meeting held last week with the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Further discussion by the board? Seeing no further discussion, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Draw,
Aye.
Cole,
Aye.
LaFountain,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Adoption of local law number 2 of 2020 to be known as a local law to authorize establishment of a community choice aggregation energy program in the town of Penfield.
Move.
Second.
Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Penfield wishes to consider adopting proposed local law number 2 of 2020, known as a local law to authorize the establishment of a community choice aggregation or energy program in the town of Penfield. Whereas the purpose of said law is to reduce cost and provide cost certainty for the purpose of economic development to promote deeper penetration of energy efficiencies and renewable energy resources such as wind, solar, and wider deployment of distributed energy resources, as well as to examine the retail energy markets and increase participation of the benefits for eligible consumers in those markets. Among the policies and models that may be offered for benefits in New York is Community Choice Aggregation, or CCA, which allows local governments to determine the default supplier of electricity and natural gas on behalf of eligible consumers. Whereas the town will seek a combination of lowest cost and highest percent of renewable energy resources. And whereas the town board, acting as lead agent pursuant to SEQR, State Environment Quality Review Act, having classified the proposed action as an unlisted action, hereby makes the determination of non-significance and adopts a negative declaration for this proposal. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Penfield held a public hearing at the Penfield Town Hall on March 4th, 2020 at 7 p.m. and on said date to consider said proposal and to hear all persons interested in the question of the adoption of Local Law 2 of 2020, and the public hearing was closed and a decision was reserved. Now, therefore, be it resolved and hereby is enacted by the Town Board of the Town of Penfield as follows. Local Law Number 2 of 2020 herein set forth. For the record, Mr. Supervisor, this is quite an extensive local law. I'm sure this will be on file with the county clerk's office and also posted on the town website. It talks about local law to authorize the establishment of a community choice aggregation energy or CCA program in the town of Penfield. Be it enacted by the Penfield Town Board of the town of Penfield, the code of the town of Penfield is hereby amended by adding a new chapter 110, Environmental Sustainability, Article 1, entitled Community Choice Aggregation Enabling Statute. The statute 110.1 talks about legislative findings, intent and purpose, and authority. Statute 11.2 talks about definitions, talks about CCA administrator, customer specific data, data security agreement, distributed energy resources, along with distribution utility eligible customers, participating consumers, new consumers, ESCO and Energy Services Company, the Public Service Commission suppliers. Section 110.3 entitled Establishment of a Community Choice Aggregation or CCA program lists 4 different items that talks about that. 110.4 talks about eligibility. 110.5 talks about an opt-out process. 110.6 talks about customer service. 110.7 data protection requirements. 110.8 administration fee. 110.9 reporting. 110.10 effective date, and so forth. So, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to put this proposal resolution forward for the board's vote. Thank you.
Very distinctly. Certainly, our town attorney and Mr. Costello, as well as the Energy and Environmental Board, has done a lot of work on this behind the scenes to make sure that we got all of our I's dotted and T's crossed. So thank you to the EEAC, thank you to Mr. Horowitz, and thank you to Mr. Costello for getting this in a form and fashion for us to vote on tonight. I'll ask the board, are there any further questions or comments?
Real quick, Mr. Supervisor, if I can, I also want to include a thank you to you and a thank you to Councilman Bob Ockenden for your leadership over the last couple months in getting this initiative going. I mean, certainly with the COVID-19 crisis on our hands, starting really in early March, you kept this moving forward as a priority and kept it live in the public discourse. And certainly, Bob, as a new councilman, this was one of the agenda items that Bob talked with many of the board members, if not all the board members, about keeping this moving forward through 2020 as a part of our initiative moving forward. So thank you, Councilman Ockenden, for your support and initiative in making sure that this comes up for a vote. I just want to also mention that this is just another example of the commitment that this town board has made to conservation and green initiatives here in Penfield. And, there's an extensive laundry list of items that we've done and actions that we've taken in the name of open space, green energy, and conservation. One, obviously, is the solar array right off Jackson Road next to the Highway Department, a partnership with NYSERDA, with the state of New York, very little cost to the town, if next to no cost to the town, that helps offset utility costs, which allows us to keep the budget as low as we can, thus benefiting residents and taxpayers. Also, the solar array we have on top of the Harris Whalen Lodge, although small, it's another initiative that shows our commitment. the 2 electronic charging stations that we have, one here at the town hall, and then one at the library, and then, 3 electronic charging stations for vehicles at the town hall, at the library, and at Harris Wayland Park. I'm not sure any other town in Monroe County the size of Penfield has 3 separate locations for residents. Also would like to mention the purchase of Shadow Pines a few years ago, over 200 acres that we saved from a massive residential development, thus enacting our efforts into promoting open space, green space, and recreation space for Penfield residents. LaSalle Landing Park, a few years back, we expanded that down on Empire Boulevard. LED lights in the town hall facility, again, conservation type stuff and lowering costs for utilities. And then, of course, back in 2010, I think over a decade ago, I think it was in January of 2010, January and March, can't quite remember the month, we initiated the Energy and Environment Committee. I think we're the first town that did that, and subsequently more towns have called Penfield to inquire about what are we doing, how did we get that committee going, and it's a resident-led committee here in the town of Penfield, so very proud of the creating that. And then over the 1,000 acres that we have of open space and conservation easements here in the Penfield. So that's just a very short list that I put together real quick before the meeting started of some of the things that this town and town board has made a commitment to residents and a commitment to saving taxpayers money and a commitment to promoting open space, green space, energy, and conservation here at the local level. We can't control what the state does. We can't control what the federal government does, but I think we have a pretty good track record here in Penfield with our commitment to those ideals, and certainly moving forward with this reservation, or with this resolution, I should say, with your leadership, Mr. Supervisor, and the leadership of Councilman Bob Ockenden over the last couple months, gets us to this point today, and very proud of that, and I thank you both very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I'll ask any other comments.
Mr. Supervisor, I just want to thank Councilman Moore for those comments, and yourself, Mr. Supervisor, your staff that's been working on this, as well as Attorney Horwitz for his work. This would have been easy to have this fall to the side, given everything that's been going on here since the start of the pandemic. So I just want to thank everybody for meeting the deadlines and getting this before us tonight. It's very much appreciated, so thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ockenden. Other comments, board? Okay, seeing no further comments, I'll ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you, board. This brings us through our resolutions this evening. Our next item on the agenda is old business, and I'll ask the board, is there any old business to come before the board this evening? Seeing none, our next item is new business. Is there any new business to come before the board this evening? Again, seeing none, this is our second opportunity for public participation on any matter at 340-8771 at penfield.org or on Twitter at Town of Penfield. And again, I'll give it just a moment. I'll just remind everyone that this is a holiday coming up. Even though we have a partial opening of the town hall under building construction, the town offices will in fact be closed on Monday, the 25th, in observance of Memorial Day. I would also encourage you, if you do have some time, to please tune in on Spectrum channel 1303 or at penfield.org to watch our virtual Memorial Day ceremony. And if you can't do that, I might ask everyone during the course of your day on Monday, the 25th, and there'll be a lot of activities going on with nice weather. The barbecue season opens up and things like that. I would just encourage all of us to take a moment at an appropriate time, just take a couple of minutes and think about all of those that did so much for our freedom and gave so much for our freedom, not only here in Penfield, but across this great country. So we are so very fortunate to be able to meet like this as a group, to have our residents discuss any type of matter with their local government. And we're just so very fortunate to have that. So I wish everyone a very pleasant Memorial Day, and please, again, keep in mind the true meaning of that holiday. Seeing no sorry? I do have a call holding, huh? All right. Actually, Dave, if you want to do that, as I plug in the password, it shows that the password doesn't work. So who do we have on the line, please? Hello? Who do we have on the line?
Hello.
Hi, good evening. Who is this, please?
Good evening.
Is it Ed Lindskog?
That's me.
I recognize the voice. I didn't see your name. I'm either technically challenged on the computer, but Ed, I recognize your name, and it's great to hear from you. How can we assist you this fine evening?
About a year ago, we met in your conference room with Mark Valentine and Jim Costello and some neighbors from the Willow Pond community here about the trail system at 25 Willow Pond Way. Mm-hmm. That parcel job was started in December, and it's about 80% complete, and we now have a lot of sinkholes and ponds there that are collecting mosquitoes. The neighborhood is interested in getting that job completed.
Okay. So I will tomorrow reach out to Mr. Costello. I know we started that project, Ed. I know we were working very closely with a combination of Watermark, who thought that they owned the property, and Mark IV, who actually does own the property. And so a piece of the work, I think, was done by Watermark, and we need to get Mark IV to complete the rest of that work. The
contractor that's doing the work works for Watermark.
Okay, so Watermark has taken the
But they're being paid for by Mark IV.
Ah, okay, so that's how that relationship has worked. Okay, so I will ask Mr. Costello to touch down with the representative from Watermark and their contractor, and then make sure that we keep Mark IV in the mix with that conversation.
That'd be great. Mosquito season is here.
I don't know where you are, Ed, but there's still ice in the water ponds in my yard, so you must be a little bit warmer to the south and to the east.
I'm sitting in my living room watching you.
All right. Well, we're glad you're safe, Ed. We hope everybody at Willow Pond Legacy continues to be safe as well. We look forward to seeing folks.
Currently, it's virus-free.
Very good. And we look forward to seeing you hopefully more sooner than later. So thank you for the call, Ed.
Thank you.
All right. Be well.
Thank you.
I'll reach out to our team downstairs, and I'll just ask, are there any other calls, team, that we should be aware of? No, sir. All right. Thank you. Seeing no further calls or electronic notes coming in, and there being no further business before the board this evening, the May 20th, 2020 legislative session of the town board stands adjourned at 7:35 p.m. Thank you for everyone that participated. Thank you to Penfield TV. And again, remember Memorial Day and the true meaning of Memorial Day here over this upcoming weekend. Thank you. Be well and be safe.